adjust this a little bit.
Balance out, guys.
Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Moreau. I'm the Mid-Hudson Region Vice President for NYSCOPBA. In a moment, you will hear from NYSCOPBA President Michael Powers, Regional Vice President John Roberts, and Correction Officer Hayes. Also joining us today are Executive Vice President Kevin Donnelly, Recording Secretary Chris Summers, Treasurer Frank Gilbo, Western Region Vice President Mark DeBurgomaster, and CO Steve Karknard. As to why we're here. We're here today to discuss the latest chapter in our ongoing battle to properly educate our state leaders on what is truly happening inside the walls of our prison systems. For years, we have urged the state to take a hard, honest look at what's happening inside these walls. These facilities house some of the most dangerous inmates from across the state of New York. They are people who could not abide by the rules of society. Thieves, rapists, and murderers who have victimized innocent people. There's also a lot of good individuals that work behind these walls. Doctors, nurses, counselors, clergy. But the people I represent, the people I'm here for today, the people we're here for today, are the men and women of NYSCOPBA. Members of NYSCOPBA are sworn to maintain the care, custody, and control of these violent individuals. And in order to do so safely and effectively, they require not only the support of our elected leaders, but practical laws and policies that won't put their health and safety at risk while simply just doing their jobs. But once again, our elected leaders have failed us. Their latest failure comes in the form of Halt, a law that is based on a complete fabrication concocted by advocacy groups and passed by a state legislature who have zero regard for the lives or the well-beings of our members. Which brings us to today and what we, the leadership of NYSCOPBA, are now forced to do. With more on that, I would like to invite President Michael Powers to the podium.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you all for being here today. It's no secret that the men and women of NYSCOPBA have one of the toughest jobs in the state. They work in harsh, unforgiving environments, often locked inside for more than 8 hours, at times, sometimes 16 hours, with some of the most evil individuals society has produced. It's part of a job, a thankless job, but it's what our members expect each and every day they go to work. But our members didn't sign up for this. Over the past several years, the state of New York has turned its back on the brave men and women of NYSCOPBA, putting the health and safety of our members in jeopardy. Instead, the New York State Legislature, Governor Cuomo, the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision have sided with the criminals, enacting countless policies to cater to individuals who can't conform to society's rules. I, for one, cannot stand by any longer. Today, we are announcing that we have filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the state of New York, Governor Cuomo, and the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision for creating an extremely dangerous work environment for our members. The facts speak for themselves on the boards presented here today. Attacks on staff are up 100% in the last 9 years. Inmate-on-inmate assaults are up 100% in the last 9 years, while the inmate population has decreased by 20,000 in that time frame. Again, the facts speak for themselves. Thanks to the lax laws and reforms that the state of New York has enacted, our prisons are more violent and dangerous than they've ever been before. The recently passed Halt legislation is just the latest failure by the state. Tens of millions of dollars will be spent to implement a program for 1,583 individuals currently in keep lock status, protective custody, or special housing units. Halt does nothing. I repeat, nothing to better the lives of anyone who resides inside the prison system. In essence, Halt forgives violence, a simple slap on the wrist for a violent offense. The predators that lurk in our prison system basically now have a free pass to prey on whoever they want, consequence-free. Cater to the criminal and the violent spikes. Our members are the only thing that stand between these vicious individuals and the safety of our communities and others who reside inside the walls of our correctional facilities. Forgiving violence only creates violence. Violence on individuals who are just trying to serve out their sentences. Violence on men and women who are trying to earn a living, just trying to go to work each day and come home to see their families. Good law-abiding citizens. Instead, the state pushes through reforms and laws not based on facts or truth, but based on emotion. Enacting Halt is wrong. It does nothing to better the lives of the people inside the prison system. It does completely the opposite. It will lead to more violence. Our prisons will get worse. More innocent people will get hurt. And it won't be just the violent criminals in the prison system who are to blame. The New York State Legislature, Governor Cuomo, and the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision are just as liable. We've warned the state for years. We've tried to show them the truth and what is really happening in our prison system. Unfortunately, they've ignored us. They listened to the wrong side. Halt is wrong, and NYSCOPBA is going to do everything we can to stop it before more people get hurt. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Roberts, the Regional Vice President for the Northern Region of Iscoba. The facilities in the Northern Region have some of the most infamous and dangerous individuals in the system. Within the Northern Region is Clinton Correctional Facility, the largest in New York State and one of the most violent in the state. Stories of violence against our members in Clinton are just a snippet of what our people across the state face on a daily basis. A more recent example out of Clinton Correctional is that of an officer with over 30 years on the job, simply trying to do his job, maintaining order on the inmate phones. An inmate jumped the line and the correction officer stepped in, told him to wait his turn. After the correction officer, thinking the situation was resolved, the inmate turned back around and sucker punched the officer in the jaw, breaking his jaw, then proceeded to beat the officer until he was knocked unconscious. The officer suffered a fracture on each side of his jaw and also a concussion. Currently, he's at home with his jaw wired shut, only able to eat and drink through a straw. Did the officer deserve this? Did he deserve to suffer just because he told the inmate not to cut the line? What kind of a workplace allows such incidents to happen? Unfortunately, New York State allows this to happen in its prison system. As a result, this officer will spend the rest of his life with titanium plates in his face. That's the best case scenario for him. As for the predator who sucker punched the officer, once Halt goes into effect, the violent, unprovoked attacks like this, inmates will receive 15 days in segregated confinement with a hot shower, an iPad, a phone that he can call with his family. He has exercise available and visitation. 15 days. Where's the justice in that for the officers? My guy has his life upended, permanently altered. Once Halt's enacted, violent criminals like this will be back living their normal lives inside the prison within 15 days like nothing ever happened. My thoughts and prayers go out to the officer and his family, as well as the rest of my brothers and sisters in Iscoba who have suffered through harsh reality every day. Halt is wrong, and Halt must be stopped.
As a vice president of the Mid-Hudson region, I'm notified every time one of my officers leaves the facility in an ambulance. I know many of these individuals, and it rips me up personally every single time I get one of these calls. These are our friends, our coworkers, our families, our neighbors, just trying to do a job that's already one in which there's an extreme environment. No one should have to come home and explain to their spouse why they have stitches in their face. No one should have to come home and explain to their children why they can't play in the backyard because of their broken bones. Incidents like these have become commonplace throughout the state of New York within the prison system. These dangerous criminals are taking advantage of the situation, and they are still victimizing innocent individuals. Something needs to be done. The implementation of Halt has to stop. I'd like to invite up Corrections Officer Hayes to say a few words.
Good morning, State of New York. My name is Officer Hayes. I'm an officer at a state prison. On June 5th, I was attacked by an inmate that was in my dorm. He was a cleaner, and at that point, he cornered me in a closet where he viciously attacked me, punching me several times in the face, ripping my shirt open to remove all equipment that would have helped me. If it wasn't for someone hearing my screams, I don't know how this situation would have turned out. I was viciously attacked. I was thrown against the wall. I was kneed aggressively where I would buckle to the floor. And once again, if I had not been heard, I don't know if another assault, a sexual assault, would have taken place. The Halt bill, unfortunately, is going to affect most. The act that was committed by this inmate has changed my life forever. He is protected for his unprovoked actions, while my life has been interrupted. The Halt bill is designed to help the most violent incarcerated individuals. The Halt bill is also designed to hurt those who protect and serve the state of New York. Every officer, nurse, civilian, counselor, and teachers were hurt from this bill. I asked the state of New York to reconsider this bill. We want to know, with all we do, that we can go home too. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Hayes. The state has put our members in grave danger. The numbers, they speak for themselves. No one should have to work in an environment such as this. We must stop Halt before more people are hurt, before officers receive more debilitating injuries, before inmates are victimized by other inmates. And this lawsuit aims to do just that. Myself and my colleagues will now take any questions you may have. When somebody can't abide by the rules of society, they break laws, they go to prison. We take them out of society to protect the members of the public. The same thing has to happen in a prison system. When inmates can't abide by the rules of the prison, they have to be taken out of the general population to protect those that can abide by the rules. A 15-day timeline does not give anyone the opportunity to provide a cool down period. And the more egregious the acts, the more outrageous it is that after 2 short weeks, we can expect these individuals to be put back into general population. No. In 2012, we went through the Annucci settlement, which looked to vastly reform the secure housing units. We were still seeing the effects of the Annucci settlement. Actually, since the Annucci settlement, attacks on staff and attacks on inmate have gone up 100%. And that is despite a 20,000 inmate drop in population. It lacks a lax disciplinary system. And the governor has made it almost an annual tradition to close more prisons, creating higher density in those that still exist. Yes. Mike.
Well, let's be frank. Solitary confinement doesn't exist. I mean, in reality, and by definition, it doesn't exist in this state or in any state in the country. When you're dealing with individuals that don't subscribe or get along in the rehabilitation system, it's no different than society, right? I mean, we have disruptions in society. We remove them from the streets to create a safer environment for the community. And it's no different with inside a correctional facility. The New York Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit against Acting Commissioner Annucci back in 2011, and they ended up with a stipulation settlement. The concept that SHUs are these dark, dank holes in a basement somewhere are the furthest thing from the truth. And the advocates have been taking the NYCLU settlement, which had a interim stipulation settlement in 2014, and then was complete in 17. Well, that wasn't enough. And then they continued to do it. And then the violence continues to rise in our correctional facilities. So the true mechanism was not in place. We have created legislation to ask for a study in the correctional settings to see why this violence is spiking to the levels that it is. And this legislation sits idle, yet they cram Halt down, which, you know, and I'd be happy to debate with any of the legislators who debated it on the floor as to the realities of a special housing unit or a keep lock unit and the services that are provided to the inmates that are in this system. And keep in mind, special housing units aren't just designed for the ones that can't abide by the rules. There's protective custody, there's admin segregation. A lot of that is put in place for their general welfare. Well, from 2000, yeah, since the introduction of the NYCLU settlement and you know the start of the lawsuit to current date, it's all right there. I mean, the violence continues to rise, the contraband continues to infiltrate our facilities, the ganglands are prominent within the facilities. It's just a violent atmosphere, and the very policies in the state of New York for workplace violence don't get adhered to. And we've had it. We've had many conversations, and that's up to our discussions further down the road. But I mean, we actually recommended many chapter amendments for the Halt legislation that fell on deaf ears, that are smart, common sense aspects for the rehabilitation model that the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision choose to operate by. Well,
Some of the most dangerous provisions of Halt are the protected age groups, 55 and above and 18 to 21. Anyone that works in a prison knows that 18 to 21 is one of the most volatile age groups. It takes the secure housing units off the table completely for those individuals. So that is probably our most pressing after the 15-day time frame. Yeah, go ahead.
Quite frankly, it's educating everybody as to what a special housing unit really is. I can attest to it. I worked in one years ago at Greenhaven Correctional Facility. An offender in a special housing unit gets more services in a day than an inmate in general population can get in weeks. And that's not a fallacy. That's a fact. And those there are some of the concerns. They're not dark, dungeon-like atmospheres. They see nurses, they see medical, they see their counselors, they see clergy. They've got mental health issues. They've got iPads, tablets phone services to their family. They have more connections in a special housing unit than an inmate in general population gets. That's the reality. Well, as Chris mentioned as well, the disciplinary system as a whole. There's no consequences for criminal activity within a criminal institution. And therein lies the problem. Solitary doesn't. 1,583. Right. Absolutely. 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 By the best staff in the nation. No, we're not. No, we're not suggesting that. We just want a model that keeps our members safe in an increasingly violent atmosphere. And that mechanism is removing the egregious actors from the rehabilitation model. It was working. It was working prior to the NYCLU settlement and the other factors that came into play, the SHU regulations of 2019. You know, they just keep coming back they just keep coming back for it. For Halt, I should say. Staffing's always an issue. We have very candid conversations with them, and as I mentioned, you know, there was no real discussion done with the shareholders regarding this legislation. And this Halt's been in the House of Assembly since 2014, I believe. And you know, we've attempted to have the discussions in the House of Assembly and in the Senate, and you know, true common sense discussions that tend to fall to the wayside. We're asking for a repeal. We're asking for a safe environment for our members that work the most dangerous job in the state. I don't know how that would be a question for our lawyers, but you know, that would, you know, ultimately we're looking to eliminate Halt, repeal Halt. Absolutely. We're always concerned about retention and people staying within the job and not having to have to leave the job due to serious physical injury of any capacity. Staffing is always an issue for us. And you know, we mentioned the decrease in the inmate population. Well, we're seeing that as well in our staff. I would have to get that or deflect to some of my regionals that deal with that stuff on a daily basis. But we'd have to get you that. Yeah, there's physical injury, serious physical injury, and potentially deadly injury, and you know, those things are always on the forefront. And as we mentioned, you know, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. Repeat that. No. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it. We're staunch supporters of all law enforcement. As far as other reforms that fall outside the Department of Corrections, community supervision that affect the men and women of NYSCOBA, we'll support them. But other than that, that's pretty much. Looking to have open, frank discussions that fell to the wayside with the leaderships of both houses and the governor's office. No, they don't contact us. They don't refuse, but they give us 15 minutes. Thank you. Well, ultimately, it's the same position we take with our staff. It's a personal preference. If they choose to do that, then that's what it is. Thank you again, everyone.